and welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment number 3, which this week, despite the fact that we had a wildly successful and great fun quiz show for the last segment 3, this one is more of the mundane sort. As I started to say in segment 2, what I wanted to talk about in segment 3 was the concept of endings in general.
Yep. Wow, what irony it'll be if we really fuck up the ending to this podcast.
That just was occurring to me. Like, this is the last segment we're talking about endings. But no, because you were talking about a book series that you'd been reading, and then the ending just blew.
Yeah, so I was talking about the relationship between 3 of the characters. There's a whole bunch more characters, but because the ending was just so bad, there's very particular parts that I can remember, and it's only the bad parts because they left such an impression. So it was obviously that part, and I think most of the other characters lived... No, they didn't actually live happily. None of them lived happily ever after. Because at the end of it all, right, they just kind of... I can't remember the plot exactly anymore, but basically there was just suddenly some unexplainable apocalyptic event, right? There was no real warning of this in the books leading up to it. It sounded like the author either got sick and tired of the book series, or they got told they need to wrap it all up, tie up all the loose ends. And one of the main villains, much like in the Darren Shan book that I've said on previous podcasts,
yeah,
the main villain turns out to have been working with the good guys all along. And then that person and all the good guys fly off to this place. I don't even know where the particular place is, and just watch the world burn, and they just live in that place from then on. And that's how it ends. The world burns, and they survive in a place. And Jerkoff and the girl are together, and the really nice guy is sad and alone and kind of depressed. Which, considering it was a really good book series up till that point, was a really bad ending.
Yeah.
Caramba.
It's one of those things, like, it's the kind of ending that you don't want to have, where it leaves your audience going, well, what now? It's like, yeah, the series, even if they liked that ending, what now? What are the characters going to do? Like, there needs to be... There's a reason that the riding off into the sunset ending is such a cliche, and it's because it's a very satisfying closure. The audience can imagine whatever they want. They're riding off into the sunset. Maybe they become a family man and settle down. Maybe they go off to more adventure. Maybe they move to the city and become a banker. You don't know, but in theory, any of those things could happen. In your scenario... Well, the world blew up. We've got 3 people left. What now?
It was... in fact, not even that. It was... Because it was an apocalyptic event, they all went into a cave and just lived in a cave. Like, they weren't even in the open air. They were in a cave in the ground.
They've literally...
And they have wings, so, like, how depressing is, like, being a bird stuck under the ground. Ugh.
It's like if you ended a storybook with, instead of "and they all lived happily ever after," and everything was shit. The end.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, you can have great endings where everyone dies. Like, what was it? The Hateful Eight?
Hateful Eight, yep.
With Morgan?
Morgan Freeman, yep, he was in it.
Yep. He was like...
Sam Jackson was in it
everyone
too,
dies. Oh no, it was Samuel Jackson.
It was Sam Jackson. It wasn't Morgan Freeman. It was Sam Jackson. The other really awesome black guy.
Yeah, I mean they are both amazing actors. But yeah, everyone dies at the end, even the good guys, even the bad guys. But that is a great end. Also, sorry, massive spoilers.
Well, we're talking about endings. It should go without saying that everything we're going to be talking about here is going to be spoilers. So if you want anything unspoiled, don't even listen to the segment. Fuck off right now.
Oh my god, no. No, we need your views. So yes, that's That's a good way of doing the ending, because it was really dramatic. I mean, maybe they dragged out the death scene a bit long,
Yeah,
possibly.
but that's I
But you felt it.
there exactly. You can end. It's sort of the way. What am I trying to say? With the last segment where I was talking about Homelander, which is the Superman parody in what the fuck is that series called? Ugh, The Boys. I could not think of the name of the series that I was just talking about. So Homelander is a perfect example of how to do Superman right, because he's an interesting character. He's a horrible person and a very, very negative, like, he's very much an antagonist, but I feel like he does Superman better than Superman, because Superman is poorly written. Superman is good and virtuous and a great guy, and he is just utterly uninteresting as a character.
He's very retro in his design, I think.
I would argue that even at the time he was kind of shitty,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It appealed more to that
vanilla
time in American history.
Yeah, vanilla milquetoast Americana. But
well,
my point was that just like with characters, with endings, you can do any kind of ending. Like, you can have a terrible, negative, depressing ending, and you can do it well. And the ending you just described is you have a terrible, awful, depressing ending done badly.
Yeah.
I
mean, hell, Sweeney Todd was one of the most depressing endings ever, but it was bloody good.
Exactly! Oh my god, calling it back to the earlier segment. Yeah, Sweeney Todd, it ends with almost everyone of note dying in a horrible way, and the few people who do survive, they're looking at a bleak future. But
yeah, scarred.
It's well done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking back to the ending of that movie, and so there's a little kid, like, he's been beaten and boozed up his whole life, and then he saw his mother figure betray him and then get burned alive, and then he slit the throat of his new father figure, and now he's going to go off into the world. Yeah, he survived, but what's going to happen now?
He might become more of a demon than the barber.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the two kids that got away, the sailor and the girl.
I don't think they're that scarred, to be honest.
Well, okay.
I mean,
assuming they
Sorry.
Assuming they got out, she's traumatized because she's been living with the rapey judge her entire life.
Yeah, and she was in an asylum with like a bunch of...
Yeah, and she saw that same judge get stabbed in the jugular.
I mean, I feel like it'd make her more sane, not less.
You'd be surprised.
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know.
I feel, but again, this is my bias. But I feel like even if you've been raised your entire life by someone horrible, you're going to feel some attachment to them.
Yeah. Oh man, the twist with that. No, this is not about Sweet Talk. Sorry, go on.
No, but we're talking about endings. So I think my point being is that ending is very well done, because the audience at the end, they have satisfying closure to the plot, and they can, in their heads, imagine different scenarios that are going to happen for the characters that are moving on past there.
Yeah. The twist with the tramp lady, I did not see that coming literally until he was like holding her in his arms. And I was like, oh,
Neither did
shit.
I. Okay.
That was so good.
Alright, I've been called a fucking idiot for not seeing that coming. I'm glad that there's at least one other idiot.
Yeah. Well, thanks, mate. I'm sorry. I spotted a dog actor, alright? And yet I didn't see, like, the plot point. I think they played that very well. I mean, I was always confused about her from the start. I was like, how does she have these magical powers? She knew to talk to the boy when he was looking at the girl's window, and now I know, oh, that's because that was the girl's mother.
Exactly, keeping an eye on her. And I didn't realize any of that either the first watch through. Like, I thought she was just some rando. And
Yeah.
I realized it at the exact same point you did, which was the exact same point that
I was
Sweeney
like, why is
Todd did.
Bellatrix moving the body? I was like, that's weird.
And then she knew about it,
nothing
and
suspicious.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a good
It was
twist.
yeah, it was very well done too. So I'm right on board with you on that one. Like, but again, coming back to the topic of endings,
Yeah, endings.
that is an example of how to do a tragic ending well.
Yes.
Because you can do a tragic ending pretty easily. Just like, oh, and then you opened a box and everyone died.
Yeah.
It's tragic, but it's shit.
Yeah. I mean, there's that classic metaphor of, like, when people are in such a bad place that they end up destroying themselves. They literally show that metaphor of him destroying his family, literally.
Yeah.
Almost killing his daughter as well.
Mm.
And I think they did a really good way of... It was not on the nose at all. He didn't even recognise her, she didn't recognise him. And it was this close to happening. And it was only circumstance that stopped it. Go on.
And I think that's another good point, is you can have, like, in the same way that you can have a tragic or happy ending and have it be done well and have it be done poorly, I think you can have an allegorical ending where you're talking about a metaphor and you're trying to give some kind of a message. There's a way to do that well, and there's a way to do that poorly. Sweeney Todd, I think, is a very good way to do that well, because they are trying to teach a lesson about how vengeance just destroys everything. There's a metaphor about him destroying his family, like you said, but it's not ham-fisted.
No.
It's in there, and if you're looking for it, you can find it, but even if you're not, it's a good story.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a tragedy. It's a horror film by some degree. Yeah, at the beginning, so the really intense intro music while it's doing, like, the blood pouring through the gears and stuff, and then it has this jaunty little chip tune of them arriving in London on the boat. It's really heavy, and it, like, completely turned me. It was like, what?
Yes, there's no place like London.
Yeah, that was a good, like, the
word
pit, and everyone's filled with shit. And I'm butchering it because I don't know the lyrics.
I know, but it's
really
a good. I know what you're saying. It's a good juxtaposition because you have the hopeful and cheery young boy, talking about how he's so excited to be there, and then you've got Sweeney Todd, who is jaded and older and has been screwed over.
More cultured from watching it.
Yeah.
I think we can jointly agree that we could definitely recommend people give it a watch.
Yeah, if you haven't seen, and if our descriptions earlier weren't enough, and we haven't thoroughly spoiled the movie for you, even if we have, I would highly recommend Sweeney Todd. The movie, like, the musical, I've seen it performed before, and I did like the performance, but I feel like the movie is just expertly done, and it's definitely worth a watch.
Like, a performance changes with every rendition, but we can guarantee you that the movie is good.
Yeah. So, but talking about endings, and thinking of, like, ones that are done poorly, because we've kind of rhapsodized quite a bit about this one, and it's done well, but I feel like there are other ones out there that we can easily pull out and say are done poorly. Because we talked about a poor one to begin with, the book series.
Yeah.
We moved on to Sweeney Todd, which was done well. What's a happy ending you've seen done poorly?
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, if you're looking for a negative one in gaming, we could always talk about Mass Effect again, but I feel like that's been done to death.
It really has been done to death. But Mass Effect is a happy and sad and neutral ending, because they give you all three choices.
Yeah, which is depressing in itself.
But it's done poorly. But that's because there's no real agency. Mass Effect is an example of when you get to the end of a movie if a pop-up appears on the screen and you say, press 1 for happy end, press 2 for neutral end, press 3 for sad end.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, so that's all I'll say about Mass Effect's ending. But, and to be fair, Mass Effect 1 and 2 had excellent endings. Mass Effect 3 had a shit ending.
Yeah.
But no, I want you to, like, give me an example of a movie that ended happily that was bad. A movie, TV series, book, just a happy ending that you thought was shit.
Oh, happy endings. Oof.
Because I've got one. I want to hear yours first.
Well, do yours first, because I can think about mine.
Okay. The ending I'm thinking of was a. Oh god, shit! You got me talking about Mass Effect tonight, and now it's gone.
Oh no.
Fuck, waffle for a second.
Fudge. Okay, I was thinking about. Have you seen Resident Evil BioShock? I know you won't have played it because you don't like horror games, but
I haven't seen the movie. No.
Oh no, it's a game, but
Oh, I've done neither.
It was a really good horror game, I thought, which is rare because I normally dislike horror games in general. But it was one of those games where you go through it all being like,
I remembered.
Everything is evil and cursed and nothing makes sense and everything is just trying to kill you. And then by the end you're actually like, okay, I can actually kind of make some sense of the scenario right now. And by the end you kind of feel like all the things that have happened to you have happened for a reason that you can understand because you know more as a character. And I think that's a really good ending. I can't actually remember the exact ending. I can remember the part leading up to the end. But I remember it being quite satisfying. I mean, the whole game is pretty damn good, considering I haven't even played it. I've watched like 2 or 3 people play it through because it was that good. Yeah, go on. What were you gonna say?
So I was thinking about a movie that, and that's an interesting point that may be something we want to talk about in a subsequent podcast. Is the idea of watching a game, because with the prevalence of Let's Plays, watching a game is almost as common as playing them.
A lot of people can't understand people watching games. But it's just like watching a movie.
Exactly. You're watching a narrative, and a good Let's Play is like a good movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
like The Walking Dead. Oh.
Yeah. So, the movie I was thinking of was Law Abiding Citizen. Have you ever seen it?
Never heard of it.
Oh, damn. Well, I may bring it up on movie night sometime anyway, just so you can see it. Because the movie is excellent. Excellent until the very end where they pull a fucking Deus Ex Machina. So the movie is about this man who, just normal guy, and his, hanging out with his wife and kid, burglars break into the house, and they murder his family in a gruesome and fucked up fashion that I will not say on the podcast. He survives and devotes his entire life essentially to revenge, although they don't say that in the series at first. It kind of flashes forward, and it's following the DA and the lawyer and everything. And basically one of the guys the guy who really committed the most heinous of the crimes, he gets off because he has a better lawyer. And the other guy, the one that was basically just the watcher guy, the guy who's just watching the door, that guy gets the death penalty.
Jesus.
But the man who survives, and the lawyer who kind of brokered all this and made sure that things kind of swept through, he's played by Jamie Foxx, I think. Another very good actor, but I can't remember all that many things I've seen him in besides this movie. I know his name specifically because of this movie. That's how good it was. Anyway, so the guy who is the dad is played by Leonidas from 300. He I can't remember the actor's name. He he essentially goes through this whole like 15 years of just, or several years, I don't know if it's 15, I said 15 off the top of my head, but I don't think it's that long,
Okay.
of just legal proceedings where he realizes the guy that did this horrible things to his family, he's gonna get away, and the other guy is the one that's gonna get all the punishment.
Right.
And so it cuts forward to like the lawyer and people watching the execution of the other guy, the guy that didn't do too much bad shit, and something goes wrong and he ends up dying in a gruesome and painful way, which is the first sign that something's wrong. Anyway, point being, it's this long spree of vengeance by this meticulously intelligent man who has taken his time and done everything he possibly could to make sure that, like, the vengeance is carried out in a very exact fashion, and it is completely untraceable, right?
Right.
But at the very end of the movie, they decide to go like, oh, by the way, this guy who did everything in this very clever, meticulous fashion, he's actually an idiot. Oh, and by the way, he blows himself up.
Oh.
Like, it's... The main, I guess, protagonist, I don't really consider him a protagonist because he was the guy that caused everything in the first place. But the lawyer guy, he gets an email from a character that never appears on screen. We never hear their name. We never see them or hear from them at all in the movie. They're name dropped like as just a side character in one random scene. And they send him an email that contains everything you need to know to win.txt. And he suddenly just has all the information he needs. And at the same time, the main quote-unquote antagonist, I again think he was the protagonist of the movie, the guy who's doing all of this stuff, he suddenly decides to do something insanely idiotic when every other move he's made has been brilliant and calculated and intelligent.
Yeah.
And he just randomly decides to do something stupid, and that's how the movie ends. Like, they tie everything up like, oh, make it seem like this lawyer made this brilliant deductive thing and he suddenly figured it out and was able to catch this guy. But in fact, what happened was the writers were like, oh shit, we need a reason for this guy to be intelligent suddenly. And so they dumbed down at the very end of the movie. So I really like plot lines that are like battle of wits, right?
Yeah.
Where you have like two equally intelligent people kind of duking it out. At the it was that for most of the movie. But at the very end, they're like, oh fuck, we need to find an ending. And so they made the lawyer guy super smart out of nowhere. And they made the normal guy who got his family killed really stupid out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the movie ends, the whole reason the ending happens is because the lawyer has a brilliant stroke of luck, and the normal guy has a timely stroke of stupidity.
Yeah, that does remind me of a book by John Grisham.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
which...
the fact that you mentioned him, my mother's gonna love that. She fucking loves John Grisham.
Yeah, this is one of the first John Grisham books I read. I don't think it was one of the ones that got turned into a movie. I could be wrong. And also this is a very long time ago, so any facts are spurious at best.
Gotcha.
So it starts off with this guy in somewhere in America, and he's like an old man, and basically gets up one day, loads his shotgun into his pickup truck, goes into town, and kills the priest.
Alright, as I can say, this is a common thing for many Americans to do, minus killing the priest.
Jesus. Okay.
I don't know if I've ever told this. I've told you this story. I've never told it on the podcast. My great grandfather got into a gunfight with the town doctor.
Yeah, but so when he got back, so he finished with the priest. He went home, and then everyone found out pretty quickly. They knew it was him because I don't know. He was not making it difficult to work out, right? Apparently, the priest had an affair with his wife while he was at war or something. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was it. I could be again. I don't know. And so there's a big trial, and the trial is whether he should be executed, basically, for killing the priest.
Right.
And then the book takes a wild turn. It goes into how the war was for him, and he was like this amazing soldier who he got captured by the Vietnamese, I want to say.
Yep.
And he was led on this horrible. I think this is.
If it was a modern day book, then it probably would have been the Vietnamese. That's the most recent traumatic war that we've had.
Yeah, and him and a bunch of other soldiers were made to do the walk. I can't remember the exact name of the walk, but basically, if they had these barely any food, barely any water, they're forced to march for a vast distance. If you fell behind or fell over, they'd just shoot you. And they were basically marching into concentration camps. And if the video wasn't demonetized by now, it certainly is now.
Not like we make anything out of this.
Well, this is true. Where people were being equally terribly treated in the concentration camps, obviously. And yeah, it goes through this very long... so many chapters of this war, and it sets him up as this really amazing guy. Then it flicks back to modern day, and it's like, right, you are going to be executed. The only way you can stop yourself from being executed is if you plead insanity, basically. And he was like, no, I refuse to plead insanity. And his family like begging him to do so, and he's like, no, I won't do it. I won't do it. And up till the end, you're like, come on, something's got to happen. Like, he can't die. Yeah, 2/3 of the way through the book, and he gets executed.
Oh shit! And then the book keeps going.
Yeah, the book keeps going, and I can't even remember anything past that because it was like such a shock. I was like, oh my god, what? No, you can't. What? You can't kill him. What? Yeah, and then like the priest's wife like claims their land and their house and stuff like that, and it's really, really unfortunate. I mean, the book is amazing, but it's so.
See, I think
so bittersweet.
I think that's another. I don't know. Having not read it, just hearing your plot synopsis.
Yeah.
My first impression is I feel like that's a book that ended too late, right? It should have ended.
Well, no, because it's like a whole new story after he dies.
That's what I mean. Is like the first, like maybe split it out into a different book or leave it up to the audience's interpretation. But I feel like that story had an ending, and then the writer was just like, "Well, I'm just going to keep going."
To be fair, John Grisham does. His books do go on a bit.
They are quite large. I actually have a John Grisham book on my shelf that my mother gave me that I do need to read. But I have no, I just have way too many books that I am in the middle of right now.
Like 4 right now.
But that's another. I just leaned back in my chair, which caused it to creak a lot. That is going to come through the mic. But I think that's another thing that is very. It has an influence on endings, right? So we've talked about good endings and bad endings, both happy and sad. I think that's another example.
Extended endings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the ending goes on too long, or if it stops too early.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it continued with his, like, I think his son as the main focal point.
Yeah, and what's God, there was a movie that I saw that just... No, it was a TV show.
Right.
So I haven't seen this TV show. I've only heard about it like third hand from other people. I think it's called Supernatural, maybe.
Okay.
But essentially, like, the idea was it was these characters and they're interacting with and potentially fighting with all of these supernatural beings, ghosts, demons, vampires, and of course things have to escalate, right? So in the later seasons they're fighting with, Lucifer
Satan.
And angels.
Oh my god,
and devil.
really?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, that's being
and
sarcastic.
by the time it gets to the point where they're fighting with and interacting with God, they've kind of run out of ideas, and they should have stopped a season ago, but from what I've heard, they just kept going. And now they're dealing with, like, fighting, quote-unquote, the concept of death.
Right.
And it's just like, okay, I think this happens...
That's when the D&D session has gone too long.
I think this tends to happen with TV shows, in particular, when they're successful. Because they eventually, like, run out of ideas.
They want to keep making the money, but they can't really expand on it.
They have to find a way to escalate things.
Yeah.
To keep people interested. I mean, Dragon Ball Z is famous for this. Like, they needed to find a way to make their characters seem more and more powerful. And so it's like, I can destroy...
over 10,000 as opposed to 9,000. Sorry, that's bad.
My power level is 9,001!
Exactly.
So, they... Like, there's that. Right? But... You know what? I feel like Star Wars kind of went through this too, right? Because they had the Death Star.
Yeah.
And then... That was the big thing in the original trilogy.
That should have ended there, really, shouldn't it?
And that was in the original trilogy. And in the sequels, they had this thing that was carved out of a planet that was kind of like a Death Star, but it could shoot like 8 planets. It's like Death Star can kill 1 planet. This one can kill like 7. It did. Oh. Yeah, the first one, The Force Awakens.
I must have blocked that out when I was watching.
The Force Awakens is one of the only good movies from the sequel trilogy. Right. In fact, I would argue it's the only good movie from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, the only weapon I've seen in any kind of fiction that's bigger than that is, like, the time paradox bomb from Doctor Who. And God knows how they expanded after that. Well, they didn't. They got shit and woke. But
Doctor Who kind of, they decided, like, we don't want to be sci-fi anymore. We want to, like, just... where does the Doctor go after saving the entire universe and billions of different species? She goes back to Earth and lectures a school teacher.
Yeah,
it's much. Like, yay. Like, I'm sorry. I get it. They were trying to do a political message there, but you've got this galaxy, universe-altering person, somebody with the power of time and space. Why the fuck?
Very biased towards humans.
Yeah, why the fuck are they wasting their time? So they do in the Tenet segment of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
They do. Doctor Who's an interesting one for endings too, because they have to end her every few seasons.
Yeah.
So, but in the Tenet era, like the Doctor, they kind of allude that humanity is like the Doctor's pets, essentially. Like,
kind of. Also girlfriends, and
it's. I mean, I know, but it's like he has all of these other concerns and out there. It's like a human being, right? They might go out and they're flying around the world and they're doing business, they're talking to people, they're singing songs, maybe they're a rock star, and they have a goldfish.
Right.
Humanity is the Doctor's goldfish, is kind of how they sort of imply the situation is in the Tenet era, right? And I feel like that was a good explanation as to why he pays so much attention to them, but in those seasons he doesn't pay too much attention to them, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. They kind of, yeah.
In
I
the
don't know.
recent ones, I agree. Like, he seems to be obsessive. And I'm saying he because, fuck it.
They, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I refuse to use they as a singular. That is the most retarded thing in the fucking world.
okay, well, anyway, the.
No.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
but
I'm being a grammar Nazi.
Oh.
I'm using the word
No.
Nazi again.
Anyway, the specific episode I was talking about was one of the David Tennant episodes where the Daleks, like, get 9 planets and they align them all up, and then they do some. They're going to use some.
Yeah, you're talking. It's
super
the
bomb.
end. You're actually talking about the end of the Tennant era because they bring back together
Yeah.
several of the companions from previous seasons, and
No, it's not the end of Tennant, actually. No, it's not the end of Tennant. Because Tennant dies to the Time Lords with the Master episode.
Oh,
with
okay, yeah, but that's a movie. I'm
Tate.
talking about the end of him season wise. Like the
It's a
episode
movie.
you're talking about, the one with the Master. That's a movie. That's a special.
No, it's not.
It is. It's like a 2-hour long things.
No, it's normal episodes.
Maybe they were in the UK, but they weren't over here.
I know it was 2 parts. It was a 2-episode one, but the one that I was just referring to with the Daleks, they end up in Bad Wolf Bay.
Yep.
His hand, which turned into David Tennant Mark II, which is human, stays with Rose.
Yep.
Rose fucks off, and then he meets Martha, and then he meets Catherine Tate after that, and then he dies.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, you're entirely right. I'm full of shit. You're right. That was. I was thinking. Okay, so Catherine Tate. There's another apocalyptic episode, very similar to that one in terms of plot.
Right.
Where they.
Was that the one with the? Sorry, go on.
So where they have the, old redheaded chick. Is Catherine Tate? Is that her name?
Yeah.
I hated her at first, but she actually ended up being one of my favorite companions.
She was.
Like, she started off shit and ended up being awesome.
Anyone's better than Amy Pond.
Who's Amy? Oh, Amy. Yeah, you talking about the Scottish girl?
Yes.
Yeah. She was a bit annoying.
Yeah.
I
mean,
like
Martha wasn't
she
great,
she
but-
actually in my mind had the opposite character arc of Catherine Tate, because she, like, Amy Pons, I liked right off the bat. Like, I thought she was a good character at the beginning,
Right.
and then grew into a shitty character. Whereas
I see.
the other one, Catherine Tate, am I saying her name right? I'm not
Yeah,
remembering
you're
it. You
fine,
just
you're
said it. She started off as a shitty character and grew into a good character.
Yeah. Donna. That was her name.
Donna, yeah, in the series, that was what they called her.
Yeah. Donna Noble. Man, I don't know why. I haven't seen Doctor Who in years.
As particularly these episodes.
But we are rambling on a bit. It's 38 minutes.
Oh God, Jesus, have we been going on this long? All right, so we didn't have a real particular theme for this one, and this whole ending concept was something I literally came up in segment 2. So, yeah, it wasn't nearly as structured as normal. But hopefully you've enjoyed listening, and hopefully you'll listen to us again soon. But this is the end of the TMCJ podcast, so thank you for listening for now.
See you next week.